he'll be here and he just shows up.
Yep.
I'm done talking.
For virtual classroom near tools in it for our kids. Okay. All right. Let me start presenting, Andy. I'll share my screen.
Yep. Okay. So thank you everyone for coming as Kate is getting herself set up. She is gonna, I think, drive the computer. If you have questions as we go through, in the chat feature where Kate has just put this presentation, feel free to ask questions as we go through, and then I'll stop Kate at different times, or I'll answer anything I can through there. But our hopes is to give you some things to be dangerous with, and give you some resources that you can use with your students as we go into April and beyond. Anything I'm missing, Kate?
I don't think so.
Cool.
Got me if I'm going too quickly.
Sounds good.
All right, because what was it? The Google Hangouts, I was almost done in like 6 minutes. All right, so HyperDocs, here we go. If you've been in any sessions with us, Andy and I have been sending like on a daily basis memes and gifts back and forth, just to kind of like lighten the mood, and then we've been saving some of our favorites for some of our sessions. So this is one of the favorites I think he sent me. If you are close to my age or maybe a little bit older or younger, you definitely played Oregon Trail and you remember what it was like when you didn't work as a team and things fell apart and you died of dysteria or whatever. So this is one of my favorites. This one as well was hilarious because I feel like we always want to Netflix and chill. But then when the government tells us to do so, we're very American in that we're saying it's our God-given right to go outside and lick whatever we want. I was hoping I put the fish one in, Andy, with everyone's faces.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, those are just some of our few favorites. And if you're in any other sessions with us, you'll see some of the other favorites that we have. Okay, so as we get started talking about HyperDocs, one of the biggest misconceptions about a HyperDoc is that it is a doc with links, and that is far from the truth. Jim Hollinger likes to make fun of us and pick on us and tell us that it's just a web quest or it's just a document with links, but really it's a lot more than that. It has all the components of a lesson into one area, and really this is we got this from the book HyperDoc Handbook. And about 2 summers ago, Andy and I participated in an online boot camp with the authors, Lisa Highfield, Kelly Hilton, and Sarah Landis. And so we actually went through the course, and I don't know if they gave us a certification or whatever they did, but they really worked with us and helped us learn how to become designers and not assigners. So one of the, Lisa is quoted in saying, be a lesson designer, not a lesson assigner, because really it's about designing the components of the learning cycle and placing it into one area. So what is a HyperDoc? A HyperDoc is a way of encompassing lesson components into one document in a thoughtful, strategic manner. So by the time that, as you're creating whatever it is that, whether it's a doc or a slide, students are going through the lesson cycles and they're able to consume and digest whatever information in a strategic way that you need, but then they're also able to create and curate as they go. Okay, so HyperDoc it's a pretty, I want to say, popular term at the moment. And this was one of the blogs, I think, that Matt Miller put out. Actually, it was a guest blog by Matt Miller. He wasn't the one that wrote it. But they were talking about the 3 things that you want to think about while creating a HyperDoc, is that you're really thinking about, first and foremost, using lesson design by thinking about the pedagogy. And it's not necessarily like, read this, respond to this, read this, respond to this. It's more of a buildup of understanding of whatever content is that they're going through. So then that's the second thing to be thinking about, is what is the best content available. Like in our classrooms, we only have a certain amount of limited resources, but the nice thing about using the technology and the internet is to think about, okay, well, what content is out there that would highlight or really enhance the understanding of whatever this content is. And so that's where the technology comes in. Because HyperDocs are really not necessarily revolving around technology. Just technology is another way to allow us to use multiple sources and just use better content than maybe what we have within our brick and mortar classrooms. And this actually, any picture, I'm not sure how many sessions, it's all a blur of what Andy and I have been in with the middle school, but anytime you see a picture, I've hyperlinked it. So if you click on this, it would take you right to Matt Miller's website and the blog. So why do a HyperDoc? Rather you are, at home because we have been quarantined, or if you're in a brick and mortar classroom, there's lots of benefits for both worlds, I guess I should say. Within the classroom, you're going to have fewer lectures because you're more of a facilitator. You won't be dictating or speaking to the students as much. There's lots of flexibility as far as like pacing, choice, who gets what type of thing, multimodal learning. So I am not somebody that likes text heavy anything. As you can tell, like things I create will be lots of pictures and different things that will be on there because I can't stand lots of text in one space. It's overwhelming for my brain. So with HyperDocs, you can incorporate videos and podcasts, as well as blogs, articles, text, whatever you need. But that way there's lots of different ways to teach the same thing. And that's kind of the beauty of using a HyperDoc. And as I said earlier, you can facilitate the learning rather than dictate it. So you've designed some type of lesson component for your students, and they're going through and consuming it and digesting it. And you are just dictating and helping them move along with feedback, or we call it feed forward, because really the purpose of feedback is to move them forward. And then privacy and accommodation. So if you don't want to give the same HyperDoc to all of your kids, you can do that by creating just a little bit different, different assignment. You can have different accommodations on the HyperDocs, and they're not going to know any different. So that's the nice thing. As well as the privacy factor, because you are providing feedback in the slides or the doc, whatever it is that you're using, and they are seeing that feedback. Like if you confer with a student on their essay in your classroom, they are going to know that as you're talking to them, their peers can hear you. So like even if you whisper, your voice might carry, and they know that their peers are hearing your feedback. Whereas if it's a digital feedback, no one else knows about it, and you are having that private conversation in the digital world. So that's a nice piece for HyperDocs. And then again, this is my favorite blog in the whole wide world, Cult of Pedagogy. This will take you there, and this is on how HyperDocs can transform your teaching. And it's also a podcast. You can hit play if you don't want to read all of it. But she has like 1,000 or more different topics. So if you've not been to Cult of Pedagogy, go for it. Just know that you might fall down a rabbit hole of instructional techniques, because it is amazing. It is instructional gold. Right, Andy?
Just don't fixate on her voice. It's very boring.
I love her voice. You're fine. You're just picky. Okay.
It's good stuff, though.
So again, a HyperDoc is not a Google Doc with embedded links. A HyperDoc is a Google Doc where all components of the learning cycle have been embedded into one spot. And there's many different models that you can follow. So there's a 5E model that has, all of the components, which I'll show you right here. This is a template that has been hyperlinked that you are welcome to use. This is right off of their webpage from their book. But this is a lesson design called the 5E model, and you do not need to use all of them. And I'll show you one that doesn't. But this is just all of them in one spot, which is why I picked this. So this is a template. This isn't an actual example. But you obviously have engage, explore, explain, apply. And my computer is being slow. 1 second. Okay, share, reflect, and extend. So that is called the 5E model, and you don't need to use all 5 of them or however many there are. I created one using the 5E model, but only using 3. So here's mine from Causes of the Civil War. And I believe, Dan, I shared this with you in the social studies department. It's being slow, but I'll zoom in as soon as it loads. So I started out with explore, not necessarily whatever the other one is, but I started out with explore, and I 100. There we go. I embedded a video that goes over the different causes of the Civil War, and so students were asked to this is a DOK 1 or DOK1 questions. So like as you go, my DOK levels keep increasing. But this was like, watch this video and then define the 3 major causes. Then I come down here where I gave them different ways or different things to read about. They didn't have to do all of them, but not all of them were text. Some of them were video. So they had to explore how slavery was embedded in all of the causes of the Civil War and then post their thoughts to our class Padlet. And then by the end here, I gave them a quote from a obviously very Confederate individual from Mississippi, and then the complete opposite, a senator from New York. And then they had to talk about, given what you've learned about the causes of the Civil War, examine the quotes provided and determine how the causes may have impacted each individual. So obviously, depending on where you lived and depending on who was in your ear, those causes were affecting the different things that you think or say, which is why I thought it was appropriate to use a quote, because what you say, is directly a result of whoever's been in your ear or the lifestyle that you live. So this is a very simple HyperDoc where it's only 3 different levels, but also I get from DOK1 to a DOK3. So coming back here, if you click, so obviously you have these available to you because they're hyperlinked, but then if you click here for the templates, the website has a ton of different templates that you can use that will go right to your drive, and you can obviously start editing right away. So those are for you to use as well. My favorite way to make a doc, and this I did make this in 4th grade, so pretend the content isn't 4th grade-ish. But my favorite way to make a doc is to use, a HyperDoc is to use slides. Slides are one of my favorite things in the whole wide world because you can really change up the packaging. And I find that the more, for lack of a better term, the prettier it is, the more students interact with me and are more likely to really get into digesting the content that I've designed for them. And so I'll show you the tools that I use to make it pretty. I hate using that term. But you can see how on the right-hand side of my slides, I have the different stages. So here's my engage, which I think I had for 2 slides, engage, explore, and they have different links and different videos that they are going through with all of the different stages. Explain, and then by the end, they have to create their own shark, I think it was. So where was it? Yeah, so then they had to create their own shark on physical adaptations and behavioral adaptations. And then they had to talk about, I showed them this quote in the beginning, and they had to think about, okay, sharks are among the most perfectly constructed creatures. Some forms have survived for 200 million years. Now they have to go back and reflect on, after what they've learned about sharks, how does that quote mean? Or why is that quote different for you? And really, the answer is because they were created so well, they really haven't changed, because from the beginning, they didn't need to adapt as much. So, but
can I ask a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. One thing that I don't think you can do this, but when you create a presentation like this, create a HyperDoc, whatever, when you make comments on the side and you give the students feedback, can you put comments like that on the side and then share it so that everyone can see the comments on the side? Like if they would click on something, you made a note to the side that everyone could then read?
So it depends on how you shared it originally. So like if I push this out in my Google Classroom and it says make a copy for everybody, then they're not going to see your comments. But you can copy and paste that comment, or just what I would do is I would just screenshot it like this, right? And then I would push that out. Okay. So like if I'm like, okay, looking at slide 12, and I would screenshot the slide and then the comments, and then I might email that out or post it as an announcement in my Google Classroom, and then they can all see that, like, hey, this is a common question, or this is a common thing I want everybody to know.
Now, Kate, if we shared out as a document to view, we would be able to see that, right?
Yeah. So yes, but the other thing is there's that extension, Andy, that we learned about at P&C, that if you write it once, you can write it in all of them. Write that down. I forget what it is. Bill, there's an extension that if you're going through, no matter what, as long as it's in the G Suite, if you respond to a student, you can respond to all of them using the same comment, so you don't have to type it. Okay. All right. Does that answer your question, Bill? Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. I typed it in chat, but I guess maybe you guys didn't see it.
Oh, I see it now.
So I'm presenting, but I don't have my chat.
I missed it. Yeah, you're good. Thanks, Bill.
On the screen. So one of my favorite things about slides, like the reason why I think I enjoy making them pretty, is because I use the add-on Unsplash Photo, which if you have a district device, it should be pushed out to you. If not, you can add it. But if you go to add-on Unsplash Images, insert Unsplash Photo, then you can type in a key term. I usually type in like background or sharks, whatever I need. And then I just click that, and that's the image for my background. If you don't already have it, you would just hit Get Add-ons, and then you would type in Unsplash Photos. It's a free add-on. And it's just another way to make your slides a little bit more interesting. And I think, you know, if you use a certain background, it really jumps out at them. And then it's also like a cognitive mental anchor. So like if I'm doing, you know, when we did SEL, we have an SEL presentation, I tended to use a little bit more calming backgrounds and succulents, because you tend to think, okay, succulents are calming, or they're just very like yoga, I don't know, associated. So I tend to use things that are like mentally going to jump out at you, that have to do with the feeling of the content. So that ends up being a cognitive anchor for whoever's consuming the slide deck. If you're interested in free templates, you can go to Slides Gala or Slides Carnival, and these are linked for you. So if you're not familiar with them, you can pick a template and it'll go right to your Google Drive. So, you know, you can pick them. Like if I want something playful, then I can find a theme, a free theme for my slides that are playful. I don't use these as much because I tend to like using Unsplash Photos, but they're available for you, and they'll go right to your Google Drive. Okay, so one of the things that every time, you know, we share HyperDocs, we have people that want to go right to like the shark type of HyperDoc, and so there's different types of steps, I think, that is, you know, helpful to be aware of. That like when you're first starting out, you want to make sure that you are familiar with some of the G Suite tools, because really you're creating within the G Suite tools. And then like, you know, if you want to embed a video, do you want it to be a link, or do you want it to actually see the video? And if you want it to see the video, you're going to want to use slides, not docs. And so as you go along, there's different stages in this HyperDoc creationism. So eventually you start to create or remix. We call it remixing. Like you could take one of my templates or a template from a website, and you could make it to fit your content, which is called remixing. Or you could impact, which means that's when you're creating yours from scratch. Or the transformation is like when you're thinking about creating whole units or whole, you know, whatever it is, you know, that students are going through. But that's a higher level of creationism. And so I hyperlinked this doc for you. Not sure if you're interested in it. If not, skip it. But it has some helpful links for whatever stage that you're in. So like right here in the creationism, it'll talk about like single lesson plans and customized docs that you could that are hyperlinked within that doc that you could use as a resource. Okay, so the different steps are not super important, but if you're ever overwhelmed, you can come back to this slide and figure out like, where do I start? And really it's simple to begin with. You think about like, what's the grade level, the content area, but here's your big one. What's the desired outcome? Like, what do I want them to do when they walk away from this doc, which is no different than really what you're doing in the classroom. Think about the specific steps they'll follow. And then number 3 is my favorite. You know, the packaging. What app are you going to be using? Are you going to use Docs, Slides, Maps, Sites? You know, I've seen really cool ones on sites, meaning Google Sites, and different, you know, different ones, different types of content might be better. It might be better. It might be more useful. You know, if I'm doing a math one, I might want to just use a doc. If I'm doing one that's over a longer course of time, like, you know, if I'm going through a novel study of some sort, I might want to use slides, because then the information is chunked for your brain. And then just determine the workflow. Are you going to push out the content? Are you going to make, are they collaborating on one doc? Or does every kid get their own copy? What exactly that you need. And then design. Think about, I know it sounds silly, and Andy makes fun of me all the time. Like if he sends me something, he'll be like, all right, do whatever. And I usually always change the font. But like font and page color are super important. Times New Roman is not going to get the same effect that if you use, bubblegum, or my favorite right now is the cabin, or what did I just download? I downloaded one that looked like a Google font. So it tends to go, jump out at kids a little bit easier if you use a different font. So again, here are all of our examples that have been hyperlinked to different to their website. So if you are interested in creating one or remixing one, then you can go to this link and, like, let's say you teach English, then you have access to hundreds of HyperDocs that have already been made by other teachers within this Google Drive. Sometime today it'll show us.
And I would definitely suggest using these. Like, don't, I know Kate said it a couple times, but we can't say it enough. Like, don't try to create your own thing. Take one of these, which the authors and everyone, but especially the authors, heavily suggest doing, and remix it for whatever's going to work for you. Because it's super overwhelming just to take, even the beginning one that Kate showed, it's super overwhelming just to take a blank one and start from there. See what other people are doing, and then fit for what works for you.
Yeah, you're just going to want to make sure that, like, let's say I want this one. You aren't going to be, you don't want to edit it. Like, a lot of people go ahead and they start editing right away and they send that out to kids, because I have a HyperDoc that is on this website and people try to use mine all the time and they request access. But what they don't understand is I don't want them to push out my HyperDoc because it has my links in it. I need them to make a copy. So if you want to pick one, this isn't what you want to push out to kids. You want to make a copy, which will go right to your drive. Whoop, I need to take this back. My computer's being really slow. I'm so sorry. I think it gets tired of me presenting, Andy.
Mine gave me the alert of how much time I was on it last week. So that was fun.
Yeah. So then I can select to put it in my drive. And then now I'm ready to edit it and push it out to kids. I don't, other than changing the links, I don't have to change much of it. I just wouldn't want, like, if a link is hyperlinked to, like, this video, I wouldn't need to change because that's just a video, I'm pretty sure. But if this teacher had it hyperlinked to a class Padlet, I don't want my kids to post to their Padlet. I want their kids to post to my Padlet. So you just need to look through and make sure that the links are going to work for you. And if it's a personalized link that the teacher has created for their class, just switch it out. But if it's like a resource such as a video, then you can leave it there. Okay. So this is hyperlinked and this is hyperlinked. And then this is just a reminder that, that HyperDocs are not just a Google Doc with links. It's a visually engaging and packaging learning experience that really the students are going through with thoughtful pedagogy. So if you are unsure of how to start, this is the last resource I think I'm going to we have. But we have this doc available to you. So if you're like, okay, in which stage, what tech tools do I need to use? And this will break it down for you. So if I'm in the engage stage, what would be a good way to engage my students in the learning content? So, there's YouTube, podcasts, or you can create a meme or use a quote to open your lesson. And then as you go to explore, here are some different tech tools or different strategies in each of the stages. So this is also available to you to use as a guide when you remix or create a HyperDoc. And you're not limited to these. There's tools on here that we love that aren't in here. Oh, there we go. Do we have any questions?
If anybody have any questions, we got 5 minutes. That's good, Kate.
So where do we reach that, find that HyperDoc? Where do we find your presentation?
I will re-put it in the chat here.
And we're also going to be sharing out, when we share out the recording, we'll share out the link again. Yeah. Eventually we'll have, when we get our crap together, we'll have a website with all of this on it. Sorry, Andy.
Okay.
Lots of ideas.
Yeah, it's hard to go through it all within what 30 minutes because it's so deep. The book on the one slide, the HyperDoc handbook, is a really awesome book. It's not like a chapter book. It's very much like a resource book, so you could go through the pages. So if you're interested in buying that's hyperlinked to Amazon, so that you could order that if you wish. I lent my book out to somebody at Shrewsbury, so I don't have it back before I'd show you. But it's probably one of the best books I've ever purchased.
What was the name of the book again?
HyperDoc handbook.
Ah, okay.
Here, I'll go back. In a second, my computer is being slow. Can you see my slide deck?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh. It's right here. So right here, it's hyperlinked right to Amazon.
Gotcha.
It's a great book, though. It has templates. It has links to templates. It has links to choice boards and MTSSs or whatever they're called, multimedia text set. Yeah.
Text.
Yeah, that's more of like not necessarily a lesson progression, but more of like choices around the outside that gets you to the same thing in the end, anyways.
It's a nice book that you don't have to read the whole way through. You can just open to a page and find what you need. Okay, I'm going to stop recording.
Yeah.